female consorts of the emperor, the concubines.
For nearly half a century, the Terracotta Army has stood as one of the world's greatest archaeological wonders. Thousands of life-size clay soldiers, each carved with unique faces and armor, silently guard the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Scholars long believed these figures were simply symbolic, protectors for the emperor in the afterlife, a spiritual monument to his power. But in 2025, archaeologists made a breakthrough that changed everything. Hidden beneath layers of clay and dust, they uncovered faint inscriptions etched onto the warriors themselves, markings that had gone unnoticed for decades. At first, experts thought these were simple craftsmen's signatures or troop designations, but as the codes were carefully analyzed and decoded, a darker picture began to emerge. These weren't ordinary inscriptions. They carried chilling messages, hints of rituals, warnings, and even references to sacrifices tied to the emperor's quest for immortality. Some inscriptions suggest the army wasn't only meant to defend Qin Shi Huang in death, but to bind souls, command spirits, and possibly trap enemies for eternity. Suddenly, the Terracotta Army no longer looked like a silent guard. It looked like part of something far more disturbing, an ancient system of control that blurred the line between military might and spiritual domination. This discovery has left experts stunned and the world asking, what did the emperor truly intend when he ordered this massive clay army to be built? And just how deep does this mystery go? The decoded inscriptions. On the Terracotta Army. For years, most people only focused on the big, obvious things about the Terracotta Army. They studied the thousands of statues, the long rows of soldiers, the horses, the chariots, and the weapons. They discussed the massive tomb close by, but over time, something much smaller, something almost hidden, began to grab attention. These weren't large or noticeable features. They were tiny markings, easy to miss. These little signs, what some began calling inscriptions, were discovered in places no one usually looked. They were tucked beneath the feet of statues, behind plates of armor, inside hollow parts of the body, and even etched on the insides of the limbs. At first, no one thought they mattered. Most believed they were just simple worker stamps, or maybe inventory numbers used to keep track of production. That's what scholars assumed in the beginning. But after more study, things stopped adding up. The more experts examined these marks, the stranger they appeared. Some symbols didn't match any known writing from the Qin dynasty. A few appeared only once, on a single statue, never repeating anywhere else. Some were oddly shaped or scratched into hidden spots, places no one could ever notice unless the statue was broken apart. This made them incredibly difficult to study. For years, nothing more could be done. The statues were too fragile, and you couldn't just smash them open to investigate. So the strange marks stayed there, mostly ignored, waiting. For a long time, most theories about the markings were dismissed. People avoided the subject. But then, everything changed with technology. New methods gave experts a way to examine the statues without damaging them. Using multispectral imaging, researchers could finally detect hidden symbols invisible to the naked eye. Under different light, the marks slowly began to reveal their secrets. Different kinds of light revealed different things. Some marks were faded, others completely invisible unless viewed through special lenses. But the biggest breakthrough came when artificial intelligence, or AI, was brought in. Using machine learning, computers were trained to study and compare all the symbols. These systems spotted patterns that the human eye couldn't see. They learned from existing Qin dynasty characters, and even older forms of writing. They grouped the symbols by where they were located, by the type of statue, by the direction they faced, and even by the pit in which they were found. Slowly, a much bigger picture began to appear. The focus was no longer just on collecting marks. The new mission was to figure out what they actually meant. And when the first full translations finally arrived, the results were both shocking and unsettling. These weren't just names. They weren't simple workshop codes. Some were personal, some carried emotion, and some even carried pain. The tone wasn't calm or respectful. It was heavy with fear. One phrase kept appearing in several places. Constructed by suffering. It was never written on the outside. It was always hidden, inside a torso beneath a plate of armor carved in a spot no one could easily see. Another chilling inscription found inside the statue of a high-ranking officer read, "He took my name and burned it in stone." No one knew if it was a metaphor or if it was an actual complaint from one of the workers forced to build the army. Either way, It sounded nothing like regular Qin dynasty texts. It raised a disturbing question. What if those strange markings weren't just random scratches or production labels? What if they were part of something much bigger, hidden in plain sight? Let's find out. Quiet theories and unspoken fears. In the 1990s, a handful of researchers started whispering about these strange findings. They didn't publish official papers. They didn't announce anything publicly. Instead, they quietly shared private thoughts and unsettling theories among themselves. One linguist working with a local team noticed something unusual. He believed that some of the repeated symbols followed a rhythm, like the beat of a chant. He said they reminded him of ancient spoken rituals. According to him, maybe these markings weren't meant to be silently read at all. Maybe they were meant to be spoken out loud, like in a ceremony. If that were true, then perhaps the real purpose was to lock spirits inside the statues, binding them to stand forever as guardians of the emperor, even in the afterlife. Another researcher, one who had spent years studying ancient Taoist texts, had a different theory. He thought the symbols resembled fragments of spiritual spells. These spells, if combined, might form something far more powerful and intentional than anyone first imagined. He explained that in the past, such symbols were used to stop souls from returning or causing harm. He believed that some generals and high-ranking statues carried markings that matched lines from an ancient ritual, one specifically meant to trap wandering spirits. He even wondered if the spirits bound inside were those of the workers who had died building the Terracotta army. It was a dark and unsettling idea, but it kept resurfacing again and again. Then came a much more extreme theory. It never appeared in any official research. Instead, it was quietly shared in whispers and private conversations. According to this idea, the marks weren't just random messages on individual statues. They were part of something much larger, like fragments of a single puzzle. If all the symbols across the pits were connected, they might form a kind of ritual map. Some believed the markings were arranged in a deliberate order, functioning as spells spread across the entire site. The purpose of this grand design, they claimed, could have been to seal or control something far greater, perhaps even something hidden deep within the emperor's sealed tomb. But none of this was ever proven, and those who spoke about it eventually went silent. Some abandoned their research altogether. Others never mentioned the subject again. Even before modern technology, there were already rumors, stories told of people who tried to uncover more through direct, dangerous steps. In the early 1980s, whispers spread of a secret team in Xi'an that opened a few damaged statues, searching for hidden inscriptions inside their torsos. A lab assistant later claimed the project ended suddenly and mysteriously. Some team members fell ill, others abruptly quit. No official reports were released. The tools and the statues used for the study were taken away, almost as if the entire investigation had been erased. Then, in the 1990s, another group from a small university tried a different approach. They used sound scanning to test the insides of statues without breaking them open. One researcher even posted a message online, claiming they had discovered strange echo patterns. According to him, there were tiny hollow spaces inside the clay. He also noted that some marks appeared in places where neither light nor tools could have reached. But soon after, that message disappeared, and the project was quietly abandoned. In the early 2000s, another story surfaced about a foreign group studying the symbols with advanced mathematical tools known as frequency analysis. These were cryptographers, specialists in decoding secret messages. They reportedly found one repeating pattern that translated to "buried alive for eternity." But before their work could continue, they were asked to leave the country. Officially, it was blamed on visa issues. Unofficially, many believed it had everything to do with what they had discovered. If these patterns, findings, and strange disappearances were not accidents, if they were intentionally hidden from the public, then one question remains: what secrets were so dangerous that powerful forces wanted them buried forever? Stay tuned for more. Seeing the unseen, technology, and the voices in clay. As more and more statues were carefully examined, another strange detail began to surface. People noticed that the patterns of the markings didn't follow any clear or logical order. For example, soldiers standing right next to one another sometimes had completely different symbols. Some figures carried several inscriptions, while others had none at all. In certain areas of the pits, the marks appeared often, while in others, they were almost completely absent. To some researchers, this seemed unusual, but others suspected there might be a hidden plan behind the way the symbols were placed. Scholars tried grouping the marks together, hoping to find a pattern or style, but instead of answers, they uncovered more confusion. A few inscriptions were clearly written in the official writing style of the Qin dynasty, known as seal script. These were straightforward to read, and most seemed to reference workshops or the names of supervisors. But many of the other symbols didn't fit that mold. Some were distorted forms of known characters. Others didn't resemble writing at all. There were symbols that seemed to break every rule of structure. That was when people started wondering, maybe these weren't just simple workshop notes. Maybe they meant something else, something far deeper. To push further, researchers turned to advanced 3D laser mapping, scanning statues from every possible angle. These detailed scans revealed tiny carvings in hidden, hard-to-reach areas. For the first time, experts could gather thousands of inscriptions without damaging the fragile statues. On one damaged figure near the edge of a pit, they discovered a chilling message carved under the left arm: "Here lies death, and those who served it." Following the line were strange, broken symbols that couldn't be fully deciphered, but the most haunting discovery of all came from a kneeling archer. High-resolution scans revealed a message carved into his foot: "I worked until my hands broke. Let him walk over me forever." Some believed this was a cry of pain left behind by one of the workers who shaped the statues. Others thought it was a declaration of loyalty. But whatever the meaning, the tone was unmistakably heavy, dark, and filled with sorrow. These messages forced experts to stop and reconsider everything. What they were uncovering no longer looked like a glorious tribute to power. Instead, the Terracotta Army seemed to hold within it the silent voices of suffering. The workers who built it may have left traces of their pain, secretly scratched into the clay, hoping someone would one day find them. Once dismissed as meaningless, these secret inscriptions were now changing everything. Perhaps the warriors weren't just guardians of a mighty emperor. Perhaps they were also keepers of secrets, secrets buried for thousands of years. Could the discovery of a single hidden message be the key to unlocking the true purpose of the Terracotta Army and the deeper plot hinted at by these strange, secret inscriptions? Let's find out. A new clue that changes everything about the Terracotta Army. In 2025, archaeologists made a stunning discovery that is already reshaping how we see China's famous Terracotta Army. For decades, most believed the life-size clay soldiers were built only to guard Emperor Qin Shi Huang in the afterlife. But this new find suggests there's more to the story. Inside Pit 2, known for its complex layout, a new terracotta general was uncovered, the first in over 30 years and only the 10th ever found. His placement was striking, right at the center of a command zone, surrounded by elite soldiers and special chariots, showing his role as a leader. What made him truly unique was his appearance. Taller than other warriors, he wore dragon-decorated armor, symbolizing royal power, and traces of red, blue, and green paint revealed his high rank. Researchers now believe Pit 2 may have been designed as a full military command center, possibly even reflecting real battlefield formations from the emperor's reign. In Pit 2, the terracotta soldiers weren't placed randomly. They were arranged like a real army in battle, with archers kneeling, cavalry mounted, and chariots ready. At the center stood a rare general, but unlike lower-ranked figures, he carried no name or markings. Was he based on a real leader or meant to be a symbol? Archaeologists uncovered him using new tools like ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping, carefully working in climate-controlled chambers to preserve his fragile painted surface. This find has shifted attention from Pit 1 to Pit 2, suggesting it may have served as the command center of the emperor's afterlife army. Instead of being just a monument of power, the Terracotta Army now looks more like a true military base built to function even after death. And with more secrets still buried underground, this discovery is only the beginning. The vanishing colors of the Terracotta Army. What amazed researchers most about the Terracotta Army wasn't just the sheer number of statues, it was their lost colors. Each warrior was once painted in bright reds, greens, blues, purples, and whites, making them look almost alive. But when the figures were unearthed, the paint cracked and peeled within seconds as the air dried out the tree sap coating beneath. Scientists tried saving the colors with special treatments like PEG, but results were uneven. Over time, technology offered new hope. High-resolution scans detected tiny traces of paint on warriors like General T 9.1, allowing experts to digitally recreate his colorful armor and robes. Soil impressions even revealed star patterns, grid designs, and Chinese symbols once painted onto the figures. One rare pigment, Han purple, stunned scientists. Made over 2,500 years ago, it behaves in strange two-dimensional ways when frozen, something modern physics still studies today. At first thought to be imported, it was later proven to be invented by Chinese craftsmen, possibly by accident while making fake jade. Though most original colors are gone, scanning and digital reconstructions are bringing them back to life, showing the army as it once was, vivid, powerful, and eerily lifelike. But if restoring their colors revealed so much, what terrifying truths still lie sealed beneath the Emperor's untouched tomb? The Emperor's eternal army and deadly secrets. Beneath the tomb. Unearthing the lost world of the Shu archaeologists uncovered treasures of gold, ivory, and jade, but also chilling evidence of a lost kingdom with powerful spiritual beliefs. In ancient Shu sites, they found hundreds of skeletons, many young men with hands tied, all facing southeast. These weren't ordinary burials. They looked like human sacrifices. The Shu, unlike the nearby Shang dynasty, had their own gods and rituals, though both practiced sacrifice. At Jinsha, over 2,000 remains were discovered, some showing signs of being taken apart. A golden disc shaped like the sun revealed their sun worship, while sacred trees with bronze bells suggested they believed sound connected Earth to the heavens. At Sangxingdui, researchers found a huge bronze divine tree, eerie mass with bulging eyes, and golden ceremonial items. Legends say Shu kings like Kan Kong had strange eyes and were seen as part human, part god, both rulers and spiritual leaders. Palaces and treasures proved a clear social order, with kings in luxury while common people lived simply. In the end, the Shu left behind riches, mysteries, and legends, but then vanished without a trace.